photographs?
Yep.
And if you want to do the music, just hit the escape button. You would want to do the music first.
I thought we were doing it at the same time.
Yeah, but you have to play the music first, and then launch the slideshow. So if you hit the escape button and go to your music.
Do I stop share?
No, you can keep that there. Because whatever you're going to play here in your playlist that you created, but
Sorry. Wood River. But that's not what we're playing now. We're playing Northern Lights.
Hello. Hello. Come on in. Thank you. I'm not necessarily going to remember any names of it. Catherine. I'm Jill.
just use it, please share over.
Good to meet you, Catherine.
And then you go here to the.
Thank you for taking care of Alexa.
Playing now
Yeah.
in the room? Yes, and
Now go to this screen.
yes.
That's right, we're in my.
Now this is that's your window for the slideshow.
Hi,
I'm Jeanette. Nice
Jeanette,
to meet
you're
you. I
There you go.
apologize.
in injury mode.
I am in injury mode. Nice to meet you.
Jeanette.
So then,
So you're welcome to
when you're
sit
ready,
anywhere in
stop
front
it.
or back here.
you hit the escape button.
Now stops this.
Stops this. Then you would do stop share. That would stop sharing the screen.
And then I turn off the music.
Then turn off this. Yeah.
Had you seen it before? No.
Is that okay?
Hello. Hi.
From
Come
a-
on in. Are you Jane or? I'm Debbie.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. I'm Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Nice to meet you. This is Jeanette. Hi, nice to meet you.
I'll change it right now. Hang on. Bye. So the Zoom link. Technical support.
Is this your monitor? Can we move it? Can we?
I just put it back for you.
Or put it behind, just not on its top.
On my, it works on two ends.
Maria always fucking fucks up.
You have to, and then go, no. You can keep that one on.
Sent it this morning.
The other.
Just a second. But
That's great.
Hi. Oh, hi. I'm Jeanette. Nice to meet you. Welcome.
everybody else.
You don't have to worry. If people can hear on Zoom, you've already tested everything. You just have to talk to them.
Hi, Deanna.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come closer if you want.
Hi. I think it's important for me to welcome all you people that are coming up on my screen. Hello, people called Kevin. Hello. Hello, Rhea. Hi, Deanna. This is terrifying. They've never done service like this before using Zoom. So we're breaking new ground here. Hi, Coral. Hi, Greg. Hi, Julien. Hi, Dan. Deanna, my God. What to say about this fellow, eh? If you guys want to unmute yourselves, you can speak. Perfectly okay. Everybody in the chapel will hear you.
Oh, wow,
It's sure a good day to have a remote option with the snow coming down.
Yeah. We have a four-legged one to take over the proceedings.
We went to the symphony last night. People were sneezing and coughing. God,
Oh.
we woke up this morning feeling a bit. So we don't want to give it to anyone. We're out here.
No kidding. So if I change this view, I'm in gallery, okay. It's amazing technology and what it will do. Drinking coffee, lighting candles. So what time is it now? We have 5 more minutes. I'm assuming people are looking for parking.
Mm-hmm.
Rosalind, we haven't met before.
Yes, no, I worked with Gareth for about 18 years at the Westminster Public Library.
Oh, good grief. That's a long time, 18 years.
Yes,
One of the things that I learned from Gareth was what librarian people do. I'm amazed at you guys. I never understood any of that, and I never understood that you were a bunch of rebels.
in a very understated way.
Oh, yes, really. Really. So, yeah.
Yes.
That's one of the things that Gareth and I had in common. We both worked in libraries before we became therapists.
Oh, another rebel. Okay.
Yeah, we loved talking library stuff, so that was really nice.
Yes, I think that was one of Gareth's most endearing attributes, was the way that he was always concerned about how the staff were doing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, you with the 4 legs. Sorry, I have to throw the cat out.
Thought she was talking about us.
Hello, Don. Hi, Don and Kevin. Margaret here. Way back. Yeah. Integrity days.
Yes, way back.
Way.
So you guys can see us then.
Is integrity still alive, or is it not necessary anymore?
Now we kind of met our goals, and
Yeah.
we were all getting a little older, not much, but a little older.
Groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gareth was one of our team that went out to various parishes, and we showed them our souls and some of them were not happy to hear it or see it, but others were changed, actually. We had so many comments about people who had really changed because people shared their lives.
Yes, yes.
And it made it wasn't a big argument, a big debate. It was just, here I am.
Made you people.
Yeah.
Changed categories.
Well, now we have the Anglican Church. The one thing that they managed to do that kind of got them moving on and being a bit prophetic, but other ways maybe not so much, at least that way.
So,
How many people are in person?
I can't tell.
11
Oh.
guests, Carly.
Sorry?
We have 11 people.
Okay.
Pretty good.
6, 8, 10, 20 people here.
So there, how many people on Zoom?
Oh,
We have, not counting Tim and me, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12.
Fantastic. Oh, nice.
Alexa and Judy aren't here yet.
I think it's easier speaking to a small group. Oh, screen just got bigger. Goshka is here.
Oh, gosh. So, and Diane will be able to.
So it's up to you, Carly, when you want us to start.
Let's give it 5 or 6 more minutes.
Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No problem.
If we, we'll have everything. Diane is on here. Yeah. Oh, yes. Diane, let's see you. Turn on your video, Diane.
Hi, Diane. Oh, she's here.
It looks like it's on to me. But let's try. No?
Diane.
Yeah, that's me.
You need to turn your video on.
Let's see you.
Yes, it says that it's on my end.
Oh,
That's okay.
she's in Australia.
And this is your friend Diane?
Yeah, good friend
Yeah,
of
she's
Gareth.
Nice.
Hi, Key.
Catherine, do you have a cell phone for Judy and Alexa?
Wow.
I sent them the order of service.
So I'm just going to go grab Tim, my technical support person here. Sit and run the show.
How about I sit in this chair?
How about if you sit in this chair?
Well, because the people want to see you. Yeah.
How about if we get another chair for you?
where's everyone dialing in from today? We're on Vancouver Island.
I'm at Maple Ridge,
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
out in the hills.
Yeah.
Fort Moody here.
Oh,
Hills, UK.
where? Oh, wow.
Feedback from that.
Where did
Why don't you
it
just
from? Where as well?
I
Access
did.
just came from.
Unmuted me.
So, what do I do now? Do I play something?
Oh, we can stop sharing the slideshow.
I'm not sharing it.
Oh, I don't think it's on right now. So
It's
that's
not
okay.
on right now.
So you can mute all.
I'm going to mute you all, you guys.
Okay.
Mute all. Not me. And
Now we're going to let Jeanette introduce you. Jeanette's up.
no, she's going to do the opening. Welcome.
Yep, that's right.
She's not introducing me.
Okay.
So Jeanette, whenever you want to start, we're all ready.
Okay, all right. Let me just hobble on up here.
Oh, you've muted her as well, so unmute that one.
And I need the music there. Is Jeanette speaking?
She is. I asked Sarah.
I'm not speaking yet.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This morning, we celebrate a man, a friend, a partner, a colleague, an extraordinary human being, Gareth Llewellyn. Thank you for giving yourself the time to honor your loved one today in this shared space here at Kearney's. And to our friends that are joining us from far away today on Zoom or on live streaming, we thank you. While we come together individually, not knowing others here, let us remember we also have come together this morning as a community that is grieving a loss. Today, my hope is that you will feel peace and comfort and share time for personal reflection and meaning, and maybe a few fun surprises along the way. Gareth was a collector of many things, but the one thing that he loved was ties. And as you can see here today on this table, there are many ties to choose from. So our hope is that when you leave here today, that you will take a tie with you in his memory. Now I invite Carly to play a song for our opening today, and it is called Wood River. You also were given handouts of this song as well. Okay, Carly?
Doing it. Sorry?
Shrink your window. The green one.
Just a sec, guys. There we go. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Won't you come with me where the wood river flows? You're watching me and snow as the sky turns from red to dark, and as that sun goes down, throw our arms around each other and tell the breeze that a deep heart, 'cause the heart is bigger than trouble, and the heart is bigger than doubt, but the heart sometimes needs a little help to bigger than us.
Jen.
Thank you, Carly. At this time, I would like to invite Catherine forward to take us through the words, The Journey.
You can expand that.
This poem is called The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left the voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds. And there was a new voice, a voice you suddenly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
Thank you, Catherine. At this time, we're going to listen to a musical reflection called The Squire's Wood. At this time, I would like to invite Catherine Roback up for a eulogy of Gareth.
Hello. Just an alert. If I cough, it is not an infectious cough. I'm an old friend of Gareth's. And Gareth's story is rich and layered. We trust that you will hear any surprises with a sense of wonder and curiosity rather than judgment. And I must add, I have found it daunting to do justice to such an extraordinary person. Gareth was always male, a truth unknown to him until midlife. To tell his story, I celebrate the person I knew. I celebrate his whole life. I honor his courageous journey and the greatest experience of his life, becoming his authentic self, becoming whole. I've known Gareth for almost 30 years, and I was privileged to sit with him on his last day of life. He died December 14th, 2023, over a year ago. Our grief at his passing softens. Still, his legacy lives on. His story needs telling. His tributes want sharing. First, some context. Gareth's father, Thomas Lay, immigrated from Wales after the war, stowing away in his constable uniform on a ship bound for Canada. Now that takes guts. He married his lab technician bride. They raised their child first in Calgary and from the age of 3 in New Westminster. Gareth's maternal grandfather had a photography and shop and gallery in Banff, and Gareth has always had an affinity for mountains. I first met Gareth in 1996 when he was known as Lynette during an ecumenical women's spirituality weekend hosted at the Vancouver School of Theology. Lynette was then active in the local Anglican church, and as her spirituality evolved, she wondered if without that status and purpose, her identity might disappear. At that time, Lynette was working in the New Westminster Library. She worked there from 1979 for about 23 years and stayed in touch with colleagues afterwards. And just this week, tributes from colleagues have poured in, a testament to enthusiasm and humor and grace. At the circulation desk, she delighted in her brief connections with patrons and their stories. Indeed, books and libraries have been a great and deep love, and a first career of love in action. After training as a library technician in Ontario in the early 70s, Lynette served many small New Brunswick communities. She also maintained a library van to bring books and their stories to remote villages. Fantastic. She spent 3 years on Grand Manan Island in the Bay of Fundy. And as a strong sign of her love of island and islanders, she bought coastal property on Isle Madame, just south of Cape Breton. As an aside, in 2000, Gareth, Margaret, and I were traveling together in Nova Scotia. On Isle Madame, we wanted to walk the waterfront land that Gareth owned. To reach it, we had to cross the property on the plateau above. He knocked. Hello, I am Gareth Llewellyn. I used to be Lynette Lay. I've changed my name and my gender, and I've come to visit my land down there below yours. And the woman responded, well, come right in and have a cup of tea. Gareth had returned from New Brunswick to BC around 1979 to support his mother, ill with breast cancer. She recovered then. Later, her death in 1998 marked a turning point. Indeed, a tectonic shift. He was now freed from his mother's distress distrust of men. In therapy, the therapist voiced a concept called gender change. Gareth told me then, suddenly my chains got rattled, and rattled me until I explored myself and my identity. Canadian author Anne Michaels writes, there is a moment when your life must become your own. You must claim it from all the other stories you've been given, that have been handed down or thrust upon you, or that you've been left holding while someone else claimed theirs. That moment came for Gareth. In my mind's eye, I see Gareth's contour journey as unravelings, with endings, with confusing periods where nothing's the same and yet the future is not yet revealed. One time, Margaret and Gareth and I were walking on English Bay. Which washroom to use? I see his sacred life cycle as a current through many transitions of joining, of loss and change, always needing a river of faith that the changes will be safe, and also having the faith to receive those changes and those gifts of growth and wisdom. In the midst of this process, we friends created rituals to acknowledge the old life dissolving, the new identity emerging. It's as if I was born male, said Gareth, raised female, pretending to be who I wasn't until I could become my authentic self. What courage this takes. I'm inspired, remembering Gareth's pilgrimage towards authenticity, which began at the Gender Clinic in '98. From then till 2001, he was involved in a supervised program with timelines for all the steps for a transitioning gender. Gamely, he went through the process openly with his colleagues while employed at the New Westminster Library. I helped Gareth clean out his childhood home after father went into care. There, on shelves in his bedroom, proudly displayed his childhood passion, building model ships. At 4 or 5, he dressed up in a blazer. His mother had been clear, do not do anything masculine. It took Gareth decades to understand who he was. And once that was recognized, he transitioned with gusto and was courageous in his conversations with friends. This powerful image he gave me, it was as if there were layers of viscous jello between my soul and the world. Layers I had to navigate daily, continuously. Now that I'm on my authentic self, the jellied layers have disappeared, and I'm simply here with you. A river of faith. I officiated Gareth and Sally Martin's wedding in 2006, each of them marrying for the first time. They worked well together, running programs for the Arthritis Society. Serving the community was both meaningful and enjoyable for Gareth. He spent many years volunteering on phone lines there and with community. He was an eloquent speaker. Gareth, cultured, well-read, a patron of the arts, theater and music and ballet, and a loyal friend, bringing bouquets for every visit, attending all my concerts when able. He was so generous, sharing his far too many books with friends. During one of his moves, here's a little story. We, his friends, formed an assembly line, passing countless Woodward bags of books from hand to hand to hand. His tiny apartment in the West End was stuffed to the gills. Gareth was also generous with his experience. Time and skill meant spent volunteering and running groups. He cherished his friends, old and new, and sensitive. He had that, it's a gentle, intuitive way he had when he, drawing people out beyond their masks. What a gift that was when he changed careers, trained as a clinical counselor, specializing in chronic pain, and went to work at Shares. Chronic pain, debilitating pain. Yes, he suffered with psoriatic arthritis, although I never heard him complain. Pain is exhausting, as we know. Naps and chocolate bars helped. Snickers, Mars bars. There were surgeries, steel plates in his hands and elsewhere. Surgeries all endured with courage. Then, the dreaded diagnosis, cancer. It seems improbable that out from Gareth's cancer diagnosis, a whole new world opened up. As the counselor noted in the cancer clinic, cancer changes everything. It does. After separating from Sally, he nurtured his birdwatching passion while kayaking with Carly on branches of the Fraser River, traveling to Haida Gwaii and other wilderness areas new to him, even learning to swim for the first time in his early 70s. Courage? Well, trying to learn to swim in swimming lessons with small children. He became an adventurer, zip-lining in Whistler, hankering to try ever riskier zip lines. He was filled with excitement and wonder at all these new experiences. The river of faith he embraced for safe change held him through his last years. Gareth and Carly committed to one another about 6 years ago. They made a solemn agreement to work on their relationship. And here I applaud Carly's devotion to Gareth. She took good care of him during his illness. Carly describes Gareth as gutsy and brave, living with a towering strength of character. He was such a nice guy besides. They worked out a rhythm to manage Gareth's treatment at the cancer clinic while respecting Carly's medical need for safety. One year, I received a note from Gareth. Quote, Gareth asks himself, what does it mean to love well? He found wisdom in Richard Wagney's book, Embers, and I quote, me, tell me about love. Old woman, it is our only choice. Can you think of a better way than to live in gratitude? Can you think of a better way than to be kind and loving and compassionate and respectful, courageous, truthful, forgiving? Can you think of a better way to breathe than through all of that? In closing, a personal note. Gareth had given me a powerful legacy, a compelling need to explore deeply, the courage to risk needed changes, to count on support with others, to trust. I ask, what is his legacy for you? I am grateful for our decades of friendship and to have shared his river of faith with me, the gifts of growth and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. At this time, I invite Carly Truman to do a reading, Wegamus reading, and follow that is a tribute by Carly.
All we are is story. From the moment we are born to the time we continue on our spirit journey, we are involved in the creations of the story of our time here. It is what we arrive with. It is all we leave behind. We are not the things we accumulate. We are not the things we deem important. We are story, all of us. What comes to matter then is the creation of the best possible story we can while we're here. You, me, us, together. When we can do that, and we take the time to share those stories with each other, we get bigger inside, we see each other, we recognize our kinship, we change the world, one story at a time. Gareth's life journey was figuring out what his story was. And I cannot imagine being born not knowing what the hell you are and having people give you the wrong idea. Some of you have heard things here about Gareth that you haven't heard before. And you may be saying to yourself, hold it, how do I fit this all together? That's not a question about Gareth. That's the content. But the problem that you might be having with confusion is, what category do I put him in? And when you think about it, when a child is born, the very first question that's asked is it male or is it female? And why do we do that? Well, if you think about it, because that categorization of a child tells us how we're supposed to behave towards them. It gives us the relationship. Why is there a feedback loop? Are we having a problem with a feedback loop?
No,
There's just...
not at all.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Okay. And so the question is, one or the other. And our minds go to duality, up, down, black, white, all this. Where does he fit? If you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure what to do with this new information, that's always what we do when we get new information. We say, what's the structure of the story of the world that I've told myself, and where do I put this new piece of information? And we try and slot it in to the stories we've told ourselves. And if it doesn't fit, the next thing we do is we go, no. We reject it, we ridicule it, and we say to the person, you are wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. And this is what the real story is. It's not because that's accurate. It's because that's what we do. It's the easiest thing. And once you've done it, you don't have to think about it anymore. My suggestion to you is to get away from the duality. My suggestion to you is think of Gareth as a unique individual and put him into that category, and then curiosity is absolutely possible. Ask him what his experience was. Ask him what he did. And that way you can put him in a different way of thinking about him. I'm going to tell you a story about Gareth and me, and this is going to stretch the bounds of your credibility even more, because if you think what you've heard about Gareth is weird, it gets actually weirder. For those of you who are psychologists or counseling psychologists, here's one for you, because you're likely to have a knee-jerk reaction. I met Gareth. Why is that feedback there?
I don't know.
I met Gareth because I needed some to help me figure out life. I was so sick I could barely walk across a room. And one of the stories that our society tells us collectively, and I suspect everybody here probably agrees with this story, and that is, it's the job of parents to help kids, their kids, fit into society and be successful. Protestant work ethic right there. There are other cultures in our society that say it's the job of the parent to help children figure out who they really are. Not something that happened in my family. And so when I was really, really sick, I I had this idea that if I went and figured out how to engage with life fully, maybe what the doctors were trying to do for me would have a good field on which to work. It's an idea from Lawrence Lashan. He doesn't say, go get a counselor to fix you. He says, avoid counselors. They're going to try and meddle with your head. You need somebody to help you walk this path and ask you questions about what's really important to you. And you have to make a deal with them. They're not your counselor, and you're not their client. We don't do that in our society, and so off I went, and I came into the ambit of Gareth Llewellyn as a clinical counselor, actually by total accident. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to see him. No, I want him to recommend somebody for me, but I don't want to see him. And he finally said, look, I've read Lashan's book. I know what you're trying to do. I can help you do this. And I said, no. He said, come on out and see me. And if you don't want me as your counselor, I said, I don't want a counselor. Don't want me to do this with you. I will know more about you and I can recommend somebody else. I said, that's a really good idea. I walked out to his office and I met him and I thought, I don't think I've ever reacted to anybody like this on first meeting. This guy will do just fine. And so for 3 years, Gareth probed my mind. What do you really want? What do you really like? Okay, you study expanded consciousness. These are your views of God. This is what you do for fun. You seem to like water. And at the end of 3 years, I said, hey, I got a 5-week break here. It's a natural break. Thank you very much for your help. And I'm leaving. And he said, great. And I said, any chance of friendship? And he said, not a hope. I am your counselor. We don't do that. And so I said, fine. And off I went. And while I was off, I met a lawyer. Scary kind. She actually knew a whole hell of a lot about law. Property acquisitions for large corporations, right? I'm just a criminal lawyer. And she said, do you want to see an exhibit of channeling? And everybody in the room went, what the hell's that? And I went, I'm in. I study consciousness. I'd like to do this. And during that episode, we made a link with Gareth. And I went, wow, I've never felt so connected to anybody in my whole life. And so I wrote him an email and said, you know how I like to do this kind of stuff? This is what happened. Isn't that weird? Please don't dismiss it. Think of what her regular job is. I was reading those emails in the last couple of days. And what do you suspect his reply was? Oh, right, difficult client. Got to get rid of them. They're not accepting that the end of the relationship it's over, right? And I'm going, no, it's okay. I understand this. No. When I got back to Vancouver, that had changed 180 degrees. And he said, I think maybe friendship is possible. And I said, there are rules in your profession. You do not get to be a predatory male. I'm not looking for somebody. You're married. No. And he said, no. And I said, okay. If Sally says it's okay, I'll go with it. And what Gareth really wanted, I mean, he might have thought I was a marvelous human being, but I sincerely doubt it. What he wanted was he wanted to talk about death. And what he didn't tell me for 6 years was that after that episode with the channeler, all kinds of weird stuff happened in his life that he could not explain. He couldn't brush it away. He couldn't figure out what it was. And from what I can understand is he thought that it was the nearing death awareness, well known in a hospice setting, when you start raising your arms and talking to your deceased father, or just it's the veil gets thinner. And he was afraid, with his diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, he was afraid he was about to die. And so we started going for walks. And we talked about how to engage fully with life. We talked about life after death. We talked about any topic that he wanted to talk about. I thought he wanted to walk around the block, have a cup of coffee, and go home. No, he wanted to explore all of this. And so I wanted to make sure that he didn't get into the idea that maybe this was a date. And so I set rules around it. You had to have something philosophical to talk about. You had to have something funny so the other guy would laugh. It had to be in nature, and we had to do something that was fun. And without ever realizing it, we started to explore the world and say, what in the hell is out there? We looked at birds, we looked at fungus, we looked at absolutely everything, and we laughed because we tripped across kids' adventure playgrounds. Playgrounds for 6-year-olds. Can you balance on a beam that's 2 inches off the ground? Gareth couldn't, neither could I. And we ended up just laughing because we were just a train wreck when anything physical came by. And so, after a while, he started becoming interested in this consciousness stuff. And people that study that all agree with one thing. We have absolutely no idea how it works, why it works, where it comes from. We just know that it's really interesting to explore. And so he started taking courses in expanded awareness and consciousness, and he got really good at it. And he listened to the stories of the welcoming people there, mediums, people that went into other people's heads when they were, I mean, we just explored it all, and we all said, what the heck do you think this means? I don't know. That's a really interesting group of people. And you might think, Carly is a lunatic, let's get the white coats and drag her off. That group of people, you don't understand the concept of being in the closet? Those guys are in the closet. You want to talk to them about mediumship, they'll change the subject because you'll think they're weird. But Gareth got really good at it. And then one day, he told me a lie, and it was a little white lie, and it was an innocent white lie, and it was designed to spare my feelings. And it was an inept lie. I caught him at it, and I said, don't ever lie to me. I'm tired of men lying to me. Just don't ever lie. That's our relation. I'm not doing anything, but I can't stand liars. Don't lie to me. And he said, what's a lie? And I described, of course, the legal definition of a lie. I had to go through it 3 or 4 times before he got it. He moved back to the West End. We kept talking. And one day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Gareth stole a kiss. I was so shocked by this, so surprised. He was off limits for all kinds of reasons. Mainly, I didn't want a relationship with anybody. He stole a kiss, and as an experienced woman of the world, I went, eek, and I ran away like some 13-year-old girl. I just went, ah. Then the amygdala stopped working, the prefrontal cortex kicked in, and I thought, what do I do now? I've never thought of him this way. And so I turned around after getting 4 steps away, ran past him, gave him the most minimalist kiss in the history of the world, ran off, looked back at him, and he was sitting there laughing. And so he started to ask me out for dinner, and we did the same thing. We explored every single restaurant in Vancouver, we explored food, we explored everything. And then I said, we should go traveling. Be cheaper if we could rent the same hotel room. And he said, I have something to tell you. And because I'm such a caring, sensitive individual, I wrote him an email and said, what is this? So dramatic. What could it possibly be? You have leprosy. Oh, you've had a sex change operation. Oh, you've been convicted of some heinous crime. Oh, you're an astronaut, you're not going to be available during that time. And he wrote back and said, you got one right. And I thought, uh-oh. I've been around criminal courts all my life. I know them. And I thought the most likely thing is he's been convicted of a criminal offense. I have never seen a librarian in a criminal court, but I've seen lots of counselors. And I've prosecuted Catholic priests. Counselors and Catholic priests are always charged with the same thing. They run to type, and I'm going, I'm going to have real difficulty with this. He came to my apartment. I said, so what's the offense you were convicted of? And he said, what do you think I am? I've never been convicted of an offense. I thought, oh, great. Leprosy? Astronaut? Sex change operation. What the hell does that mean? And so he explained it to me. And he said, I think you're afraid that I'm lying to you. And I said, are you out of your mind? You have always told me the truth. You are a straight male. That's what your truth is. That's not a lie. You've told me that. The problem that you have is that when you tell people that, they don't believe your story. Criminal courtrooms are full of trauma. And I looked at him and I thought, this is not a story about sex. This is not a story about categories. This is a trauma story. And I started to look at him and thought, my God, what have you been through where people tell you your whole life that you're wrong? Where do you go to figure it out? And in this process of planning for this ceremony for him, I realized why there were so many gay people in his life. Where else would you go if you were trying to figure this out? They would have open minds. They would have shared trauma stories. They would be supportive of you. And that's what he found. And he found some exceptionally good friends in that group. And I honor you for that part of his journey. And then he goes to the medical fraternity, lays out the situation that he's facing, and the doctors finally say, we completely agree with you. We honor your trauma story. We accept the fact, medically, you are male. And guess what? There are some things that we can do to help you. He goes through that. Now, at this point, if you're me, you say, end of story, success, fantastic. Not quite. Because, of course, friends and family always treat you the way they did from the time they met you. You cannot go back to your family and say, hi, I'm a judge, I'm a surgeon, I'm a this. They say, look, I knew you when you were 10, I know what you are. And they don't change. And so people kept treating him as if he were female. And so he had to shift his friends. And there's another reason why he may not have told anybody what he was doing as he made new friends. And that's because the category that he is now morphed into is so small that it's physically dangerous. There are people in this world that think they are given the rights by God to beat you up and kill you. That's why he didn't talk about it. That and the fact that other people would say, I can't wrap my mind around this. I'm going to ridicule. No, you're one or the other. And they just don't believe it. And so that's why Gareth may not have told you. And when you think about it, when you think really hard about it, you see this in our larger society. You see people like Gareth's father and my father who came home from the war with PTSD. We didn't understand it. Nobody understood it. They knew that it happened. And what did we do to them? I can't fit this story into my reality. We're going to call it a lack of moral fiber. You just weren't emotionally tough enough. And by the way, if you weren't emotionally tough enough, guess what? You were a coward. Oh, not true. But you developed in a family like mine and Gareth's, you developed this idea of secrecy. You don't want to let that out because you don't want other people's wrong opinions of you. But we see it in another nefarious kind of place. 40 years ago, if some choir boy, some altar boy from the Catholic Church came up to his mother and said, Father so-and-so was doing things to me that I don't think he should do to any kid, the mother would look at him and go, I've known him for ages. He's a really nice man. He's an intermediary between us and God. He's a man of the cloth. He would never do that to you. You must be lying. You must be wrong. We're going to punish you. And that's where the additional trauma comes in. Now, if somebody walked up and said that to you, hi, I was abused by a Catholic church, you would say, my categories are broader. I know that wherever you get vulnerable children, you get predators. You get sexual predators. It fits into my scheme, and we all accept it now. So if you're wondering what you should do, think of it this way. Gareth became the man that he always was. It was a question of timing. and I mean, I'm making this up because it's easier for me to understand it this way, but I think what happens to these guys in utero is that because every child is conceived as female, every male in this planet is conceived as female and is identifiable as female. He's in the womb, and the male hormone kicks in and goes to his brain first and says, wow, you have won the lottery, you are male. And you go, yeah, got it. And then as it progresses, God in his wisdom says, just kidding. I'm going to give you a body that doesn't fit. Figure this one out. And that's what happens. And if you can figure it out soon, your life is okay. If you figure it out later, you have lived a life of trauma. And so Gareth and I just said, you're a guy, through and through and through. He had all the behavioral attributes of a male. They are difficult to live with, but he was a marvelous human being. What he gave me was acceptance, and that's what he gave all of you. He gave you acceptance. Gareth's trauma is part of that story too, because Gareth has been desperate for acceptance all of his life. Gareth, one of the reasons he's such a nice guy is because his trauma style was please and appease. Anything you want is perfectly okay with me. I will never challenge anything. And when I started living with Gareth, I would say, what kind of toothpaste do you want me to buy? And he'd say, oh, anything you want. What do you like? And I'd say, Gareth, it was a simple question. What kind of toothpaste do you like? No, it's okay. Anything you want. And I realized, Gareth, it's an empty restaurant. Where do you want to sit? Oh, well, we could sit here, here, here. Gareth, just tell me where you want to sit. Oh, well, there's all the... Gareth, just shut up and tell me where you want to sit. And he would stand there absolutely frozen. He could not tell me what he wanted. And so I had to say, okay, we up the ante. If you can articulate what you really want in this world, I will move heaven and earth to get it. And he said, don't believe you. And I said, yeah. I think it took us 18 months for him to actually let that idea settle in. And he said, this is developmental trauma. I said, lay PTSD on top of it. And so we got him another therapist, and he started to resolve it all. Okay? We kept doing this, what we call woo-woo, and he kept journeying with his big snowy owl. We had it all planned that he was going to die here, and we had it all planned how that was going to happen. And the palliative care doctor came over, spoke to him an hour, said, just let me listen to your chest, pointed her finger at me and said, you call 911 now. You don't kind of bucket when a doctor says that. And so I didn't have the opportunity to hang on to him and say goodbye. I watched him being wheeled down the hall. And then I watched what happened to him when he went into Vancouver General Hospital. And I thought, there are some real bastards out there, because they said, I don't get paid enough to deal with people like you. And I thought, I'm going to come down and punch you out. The cruelty of that little tiny category 10 days before his death. I'm not going to get you a walker. I'm not going to do that. I mean, they were just nasty, nasty, nasty. And I thought, Gareth, you always told me this would happen, and I never believed you. But then he went into hospice, and he was very well treated there. And 2 days after he died, Deanna and Paul, this is the Deanna on the screen, there you are. We were talking about Gareth and his death. All of a sudden, we were on Zoom, but it was like we were sitting around a table with a coffee talking about stuff. And all of a sudden, the three of us went, hold it, what's going on? Do you guys feel that? Do you know that? And we said, Gareth's here. Are you sure? Yeah, no, I can feel it. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, no, he's talking to me. And it's like, holy crap, he's just come through. And he's saying to Paul, Carly's there. I know Carly's there. I've got a message for Carly. And I'm going, this is the guy I love. This is fantastic, right? And the message was this: when I was in hospice, I felt completely abandoned by you. You weren't there. This wasn't how I was supposed to die. And I'm going, ah. And then he says, and then I passed over. And when I passed over, I could see it all. I could see all the people. I could see what they were thinking. I could see what they were feeling. And I could see what you were doing. And you were doing everything in your power to make my death a good one, the way we had planned. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I thought, I really like this guy. I really like this guy. He accepted me. And I thought, what did I give him? What did I give him? And I thought, you know, the thing that I gave him was I gave him permission. I accept you for what you are. Whatever weird thing that may be, let us celebrate life. God does not make mistakes. And Gareth, I'm not sure Gareth believes how we're doing this ceremony for him. And it's difficult because there's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. I'm not sure he would agree with our way of doing it. And I feel badly for that, but it's like every life has value. And this story has a huge amount of value. And I just honor this guy beyond measure because he allowed me to be me. And nobody had ever done that before. And so that's the value. Acceptance, permission, be who you are, and engage with life absolutely to the full. And that's what he and I decided to do, what we did outside and what we did in our relationship. This man, I think, was courageous, brilliant, funny, pain in the ass, all of those things you want in a relationship, but I honor him beyond measure. I have not ever met anybody like him in my life. Thank you. What are we doing now?
From Carolyn's receipt.
Thank you so much, Carly. Now we'll listen to musical reflection, Carolyn's Receipt.
Seth?
this time, I would like to invite the people that are here and also individuals that are joining us from Zoom. Gareth had a history of working at the library, and there are some of those people here today. So I would invite you to step forward if you have a memory that you'd like to share about Gareth and your time with him.
Don't worry. I'm Jane Kupfer, and I worked at the library from Gareth's time all the way through to the time he left. And listening to all these things, I've have some memories that came forward, have some information. Of course, there's never too much information. And so one of the things I wanted to mention is that we all know that Gareth transitioned. And Lynette was his name at birth. And Lynette and Gareth appear in the same Tennyson Idols of the King. And so that's why he went from Lynette to Gareth. So the description from Wikipedia is Gareth's first quest comes in the form of the cantankerous Lynette, who begs Arthur for Lancelot's help in freeing her sister. Rather than Lancelot, she's given Gareth, still seemingly a kitchen servant. Indignant, she flees, etc. So it goes on about their relationship. Another thing is that Gareth always knew what to say. And when he mentioned one time that as a child in class, he would be the one who would volunteer to thank the visitor, and he would volunteer to speak on behalf, so much that the teacher, this would be in grade school, would say, would anybody like to thank the visitor? Not you, Gareth, not you, Lynette, because he was available. Now, one example of that is that he and I worked at the library on Friday evenings. That was our regular shift together. And during the transition, one of the regular Friday night patrons said to Gareth, who was by then short-haired and dressing in male clothing, said to him, did your mother used to work here? And Gareth said, no, but she does come in quite often. Looking at these ties, it reminds me of when Gareth went to wearing ties instead of scarves. Gareth collected things, as mentioned, and one of the things was a large collection of scarves, silk scarves and things. Well, there was a party, an event, I can't really remember the whole context, but these scarves were available for people to take as the transition proceeded. So yes, I still have that, and it's a nice memory. The other thing is that Gareth always kept a book of poetry in the car. So when there was an occasion to wait for something, there was always a book of poetry there. And was at the library, he was open about this exchange. So he said to the staff, ask anything you want, and was always very accommodating about answering. I don't know how many people asked or just accepted, because that's what we did, and that's what he did, is he accepted people as they were. I think of all the get-togethers we had, and because my husband is here, he has good recollections because he would pick me up on Friday nights. So he would meet me at the library, and Gareth and he and I would talk about things. So that was, so there are a lot of people who would remember Gareth very well and remember the gracious person he was. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Margaret Scott Peters. I actually met Gareth the very same year that Catherine did. And Gareth was popular with women all his life, and men too. However, he was particularly affectionate with women. Thank you, Jane. I remember meeting Jane, and I think it may have been my backyard in Tawasin. And it was an incredible ritual. Unfortunately, Catherine was elsewhere. But yes, the scarves all disappeared. And Catherine and I and Gareth did a lot together. And this trip that Catherine mentioned to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where Gareth had worked as a library assistant. Well, actually, Gareth was given full duties. I think New Brunswick were desperate for librarians. And so anyway, during that trip, I just want to introduce you to my lovely, lovely vest, which Gareth bought for me in Halifax, probably around the year 2000 when we were back in the Maritimes. So, and I wear it with pride. Now, are there any other library folk that want to share in person their memory? Because I think Jane collected, if there's time, Catherine highlighted a few of them. And you call yourself Special Collections. I love that. I have to say that my sister also was a librarian all her life. And at any rate, Carol Kay, she's here? No. Would you like to say what you wrote? No? Okay. Can I read it? All right. I remember Gareth's sense of humor, dedication, and enthusiasm to new procedures and projects, but also his compassion and respect that he had for staff and patrons, especially ones who seemed to need a kind word or support as they were going through a difficult time. There wasn't much time when checking out books for patrons, but he wanted to connect with them in a positive way, acknowledging their struggles. From Christiane P. Do you want to say it in person? Sure. Okay. Oh, I have to be, oh, okay. There you go. Okay.
Okay, Gareth was a very calm, kind, and generous soul. He always took everything in stride and looked at life in a humorous way. After he retired, he connected with the library, and I enjoyed chatting with him when he came in. At our special collection get-togethers, he so enjoyed talking about his garden on his balcony, nature, and animals. I will miss him and his positive outlook on life.
Okay. Grace here. Grace S. wrote, and I'm just reading the highlighted parts. I admired his ability to remain positive, find joy in the small things in life throughout his illness. My heart goes out to Carly. I have to say that in the time that I knew Gareth, he had surgeries that were required for the transition. He also had surgeries required for his arthritis, and it was amazing. Yeah, his hands, and so I did a lot of driving because he couldn't drive with the hands thing. And then he also had surgery in his feet, and he was in a wheelchair. I'm a nurse, and graciousness, intelligent, quick with the response, and very caring to anybody he knew. Ron C. Hang on now. Jane, we've spoken Jane. Ron C. Ron C. here?
Clancy. He's not here.
He's the director of the library.
Oh, okay. Gareth faced many challenges through the years, but he was always cheerful and positive, no matter. He was enthusiastic when he implemented the automated system and helpful when we all had to learn new procedures. He especially enjoyed working with patrons and had many friends from the library in Westminster. After so much suffering, I hope he has found peace. Then Wendy T. Wendy T. No, okay. So sad about Gareth. I am sorry that he had pain. I think the fact that he maintained his library connections is a testimony to how much his time at the New Westminster Public Library meant to him. He had quite the journey in life, staying true to himself. I admired his positivity while sick, taking joy in little things like his plants and cats. I might just say something similar to what Catherine said in her eulogy around the patron who wondered where the predecessor to Gareth had gone. Gareth's father actually had dementia and needed to go into a home. And Gareth faithfully visited as his son. And I don't know that Mr. Lay understood that he was being visited by his son, because he said one day, he said, well, where's Lynette? And Gareth said, she sends her love.
At this time, we're going to listen to another musical reflection, Carolyn's Ramble.
Jeanette, need the people online have something to say?
are at technical difficulties. Sorry, what do we do?
Now we go back to Zoom.
Okay, back to the Zoom.
Just leave it
Okay.
there.
Yes, back to the Zoom.
And then stop share. There we go.
So do we want to show pictures?
Closing word.
Anybody on the Zoom want to say anything, Carly?
Is there
Yes.
anybody on Zoom that would like to share a story? Hi there, I think we have Diana.
Deanna and
Deanna?
Paul, yeah, okay. So Deanna, you have to take, there you
I
go.
unmuted. Okay, we muted. Deanna, you want to, number one, Carly, you're the awesomest. And I don't know if that's a word, but that's what you are. What an amazing message. Thank you so much for that. Do you want me to start? Do you want to start?
Go for it.
Well, I was a part of that recent channelers, kind of, when Gareth came through, and I actually found my notes of that message that Gareth made, and actually going through it, and I remember because the three of us were together, I had to write this down while we were talking, and so I wrote I could hardly write it. It was all jumbled. So I was looking at it, and Gareth came in and helped me edit it. So if you don't mind, do you mind if I share that? Okay, all right. Here we go. Gareth. Hi, Paul. I know this already, but you were talking to Carly. Paul, yes, Gareth. Gareth, I'm knocking at your door because I love you all. Paul, Gareth, I know what it is we have, and it's incredibly touching. Gareth, well, I know what we have. Please tell Carly I have never loved someone as much. Please say how thankful our recent time together has been. Forever. Yes, I could dive with you, but in fact, we dive much deeper. All I can say is thank you. But those are only words and will not be my true meaning until you are with me again. Yes, now I can remember clearly everything, every little thing, for all time, forever, everything. And it gives me joy that cannot be expressed truly here. I am swimming in love, Carly, and also it is love with you. I may be first, my love, but our real time is coming. If you turn your head, blink an eye, and I will be there with you. I am here to receive you in ecstasy. Carly, what can I do to keep the connection but not interfere? Gareth, there is no interference. I ask to be with you, Carly, and to always be myself. Always be yourself, sorry. Gareth, I see so clearly. I am waiting for you with unbounded joy, Carly. Carly, okay, I'm waiting for that too, exclamation point. Gareth, Carly, please live every moment and love every moment until you are home with me again, until we can be together as our true and as our complete selves. There's nothing more. Gareth, forever, Gareth. And I will be celebrating every second. That's it.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else that would like to share on Zoom? Rhea?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you'll have to unmute. There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Wow. I had some comments I prepared. And, well, just like they're blown out of the water to many respects. You know, I met Gareth many years ago at Share Family and Community Services, where we were both counselors, and I was on staff, and he was an intern. He was, you know, he had a kind, patient quality, you know, often coming up with wise comments, but always quick with the jokes. And we laughed a lot. And I chalked his wisdom up to being a former librarian and therefore well-read. But what a simplistic conclusion. But in getting to know him much better, I found he was so much more. Little did I know how much more. But as the years passed, he was exceedingly compassionate, both to clients and colleagues. And I wondered how I could maintain his mindful, measured pace within the agency's stress-filled environment without complaining. I hoped someday he'd share his secret with me. But as the years passed, he developed cancer, which lingered to the point where it grabbed his full attention and he couldn't work anymore. We continued to meet, at first in coffee shops, then only by phone. And our talk turned to spiritual matters when my husband passed, and in my grief, I began to have experiences which didn't fit my former reality. I shared that I believed my husband had been invited to pass, and Gareth related being invited to pass twice already. That, despite being a self-proclaimed atheist at the time, he had to admit there was something else out there. He told me the first invitation came with the children's choir sweetly beckoning to him as he lay in bed. He declined. The second time he was walking a labyrinth in the back of a downtown United Church with a service in progress up front. When he was asked if he wanted to go, he said no, because he'd disrupt the service and make a mess on the floor. That wasn't fair. That was Gareth all over, always putting others' needs before his own and never wanting to inconvenience anyone. Gareth, it's been a pleasure knowing you, and I look forward to seeing you again someday. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
This is Diane. I'd like to say something.
Hi, Diane.
Can you hear me okay? I'm just using the phone because it's early here.
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for speaking to Gareth. Wow. I just have a couple of little things. I had a really nice connection with Margaret and Gareth, who came to the house where I was renting and had a big Thanksgiving, Canada Day, those kind of celebrations together. And often when I look back, a lot of our talking, our connection was around the table, around food, in different places where I was. We talked a lot about sex, we talked a lot about death, we talked a lot about our clients, people, the way people are in the world, and he had a great wisdom. And I feel I am a better person for knowing him. The other thing I think that hasn't, I mean, it's been touched on here, but is that I met him a long time ago, And then I sort of re-met him in a completely different context. I was coming out of a relationship. I was coming out in the world. And I was really connected in with community and working on the Pride line there. And it was just a wonderful time for me at the time, before I started working there at the clinic and community. This was all separate, and he was also on the Pride line. And we did a lot of things together with another couple, Heather and Jan. We did all sorts of trans awareness workshops. We did all sorts of anti-racism workshops, and we did a lot of stuff around trans health and trans people in the world while he was transitioning. He was going the full way, and he started a group himself that he held out in Westminster for guys like him, which was really wonderful. At the same time, I became connected to a project to start a trans health clinic on Saturday mornings at community, and so I worked there with a doctor who's still working in trans health. So there was a sort of a parallel line for us, and I was really inspired by how open he was about, because he actually was one of the first people to really challenge people. Every time he presented himself and he asked for what he wanted, things changed and new words came into being and new ways of doing health in trans health came into being. He was actually really a leader in that. I think that's probably all I need to say today. But thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else before we continue? Hi there.
Deanna, do you want to say something?
Well, just very short and brief, really. I have really felt that someone has seen me and accepted, yes, but like seen deep into me really quickly with so much love and compassion. It was a rare experience. Unique.
Mm.
Precious. Just open heart and rare compassion, rare, wide, incredibly wide compassion and insightful. So thank you, Gareth. And thank you, Carly, for introducing. That's all.
Dawn? Kevin and Dawn.
Hi, yes,
Hi.
Don. You know, our more extensive concept was really when
We can't hear you.
and so
Is this Kevin or Dawn? Dawn.
this is Don here.
Dawn, we're going to ask that if you stay in the position that you're in right now, and if you're able to speak about Gareth in the position you're in, we can hear you perfectly. But the second you move your head, we can't hear you. Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Shall I recap briefly?
Yes, please. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Our more extensive contact with Gareth was really prior to that part of his transition, and when he was with us in Integrity, which is the Anglican gay lesbian. We'd like to add transgender, but there was only a little bit of contact with transgender people when we were working within the church way back then. But at any rate, I just wanted to say that at that point I'll say she because she identified as really herself as someone who loved women. And that was kind of, she hadn't made that next step earlier on at any rate. We learned about it later, but not when we began working together in the Anglican Church. But I just want to say, I mean, oddly enough, even though it was just one step on their journey, it was kind of way back. You know, she and the rest of us had some impact on a fairly conventional operation in the Anglican Church of Canada, and we did, and I want to credit her with when she was Lynette to well, I want to credit them with this contribution to, we really made some, we precipitated some quite profound changes in a fairly stodgy church, you know, to the point where now the church even marries gay and lesbian people. We're not hearing too much about trans people at this point, but at any rate, I just wanted to say that she, at the time she, but now he, contributed to that whole process, which is really difficult in that rather than preaching at people, we presented ourselves as who we were. And how we understood ourselves at that moment in time too does change, as we're clearly aware of now. And so you kind of open yourself, and you knew you were going to get some hostility, but you did it anyway, because that's part of what we expected in some ways. But in the end, there was success. And now there are gay and lesbian clergy, and even a gay bishop out there in Ontario, and et cetera, et cetera. So things really have changed in that respect. I really am grateful for Gareth's contribution to that whole part of the process of transforming a church, even. Not without lots of hassle. Kevin and I were really honored to be invited to the celebration where she, as Linda, handed out or made available all of her silk scarves, and so we did leave with silk scarves on that end. It was quite delightful. And subsequently, one interesting thing was when Gareth was, I don't know how we heard about this. It must have been him, but they were going to do a presentation, and I'm forgetting even now kind of who was sponsoring it. But what was fascinating was a whole other thing got opened up, and that was because amongst the panel were these younger people than us, or me, who would call themselves non-binary, and it just, I mean, your mind just starts going, you know, to the other possibilities of the way people can be genuinely who they are. And I've had the joy of having students in I'm a psychology teacher, had some people in transition, and some people pretty much completed their transition in my classes, and it's been such a treasure. But I remember there's Gareth, and then there's these younger people saying, well, I'm non-binary. And I thought, oh my God, yeah, here we go. It just is so much more complicated than I ever learned when I was growing up. At any rate, I just really treasure her friendship and her comradeship, really, over some really challenging times in like I said, a fairly conventional church. Thanks, Gareth.
I just want to add that it's been helpful to me to hear the explanation of distancing from previous friends. We experienced that and we felt such closeness to Lynette as Lynette. And when Gareth was transitioning, he also participated some with integrity for a time anyway in the transition process. And it was obviously difficult for us to call Gareth him, and we would make the mistake, and and see the disappointment, kind of, I guess, in Gareth's face in that, in those moments. And so to hear that in becoming authentically Gareth, it was necessary to distance somewhat from people who couldn't make that transition. And it wasn't for lack of wanting to, I can tell you that. But anyway, I just found that a useful comment for us. Thank you. And thank you, Gareth, for protecting yourself.
Anybody else that would like to share a memory? Okay. Okay.
She's going to do it.
Sorry?
Others in here?
Is there anybody else that would like to share in here? Yes. Oh, please. Please. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Who the hell is this?
I'm Jill. So, hello everyone. Thank you for today. It's been lovely to gather together. I knew Gareth, met first as Don and Kevin were speaking, during the time that the Anglican Church was deliberating over the issue. And so we were in various discussion groups together and so on. And it never ceased to amaze me how Gareth was always positive, no matter what kind of responses and hostility we were facing. And then Janet and I moved to the Sunshine Coast, so we were kind of away for a lot of the period. We were there when Gareth first started to transition with integrity, but we had moved. And it wasn't until, because they were so successful and things moved along, I mean, at that point things moved along in society so quickly, before we knew it, friends were getting married. And that we went to a wedding of friends that were getting married, and there was Gareth there at Joan and Donna's wedding. And it was such a celebration because we hadn't had that opportunity to be at weddings. And it was so delightful to reconnect with Gareth, and we just clicked immediately. It was like, this is the authentic Gareth. And so we invited him to come to the Sunshine Coast, which he did. And then a few years later, when the church by then had also made the transition and was allowing same-sex blessings, that he came to our blessing at St. Hilda's in Sechelt, along on his arm with Sally, and introduced us to Sally, and they were going to be married that fall. And we just had this wonderful beginning of really deepening our relationship with Gareth during his time married to Sally. And if you have seen the commercials, you know, of grandparents opening arms when people get out of cars and welcoming them into their home, that was what Gareth and Sally were so hospitable. I mean, you felt like you were being welcomed into this broad space of love and just generosity. It was just so heartwarming, and it penetrated through and through. And like Deanna said, this rare person, there was a rarity to the depth of engagement, enthusiasm, curiosity. Gareth his eyes sparkled when he engaged with you and wanted to know every bit of curiosity. He was always curious and so enthusiastic with everything. And together, Sally and Gareth just made their home so wonderful. So it was really just, I think Janet and I both just consider that such a blessing. The period of friendship we had with Gareth and Sally was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we captured everyone? Is there anybody else that would like to speak? At this point, I want to share with you what I experience as a beautiful poem, one that speaks of someone who passed away and was trying to reach their loved ones in ways that they could. It is titled, As I Sit in Heaven. While not everyone believes in heaven, I invite you to replace that term that would work for you, such as my universal home, the next level of life, or what will work for you. This is not only an expression of life continuing after death, but can also be a message of love and support from your loved one to you. As I sit in heaven and watch you every day, I try to let you know with signs I never went away. I hear you when you are laughing and watch you as you sleep. I even place my arms around you to calm you as you weep. I see you wish the days away, begging to have me home, so I try to send you signs so you know you are not alone. Don't feel guilty that you have a life that was denied to me. Heaven is truly beautiful, just you wait and see. So live your life, laugh again, enjoy yourself, be free. Then I know with every breath you take, you'll be taking one for me. Today we have been remembering a life well lived. As I read this next poem, please take the time to remember Gareth in your own way, in your hearts. As I read this, I encourage you to close your eyes and just listen to the words as we remember him. The poem is entitled Slow Dance. Have you ever watched kids on a merry-go-round or listened to the rain slapping on the ground? Ever followed a butterfly's erratic flight or gaze at the sun into the fading night? You better slow down, don't dance so fast. Time is short, the music won't last. Do you run through each day on the fly when you are asked, how are you? Do you hear the reply? When the day is done, do you lie in your bed with the next 100 chores running through your head? You better slow down, don't dance so fast. Time is short, the music won't last. Ever told a child, we'll do it tomorrow, and in your haste, not see his sorrow? Ever lost touch, let a good friendship die? 'Cause you never had time to call and say hi. You better slow down, don't dance so fast. Time is short, the music won't last. When you run so fast to get somewhere, you miss half the fun of getting there. When you worry and hurry through your day, it is like an unopened gift that is thrown away. Life is not a race. Do take it slower. Hear the music before the song is over. At this time, we will listen to our closing piece of music, and it is The Busker's Dream. After this service today, you are invited to go into the room next door for coffee and tea and continue to celebrate Gareth. Carly will play the final piece of music. Thank you. think they're trying to play the music with the pictures and it's not catching.
So we're invited for the tea ties, eh?
What we'll do is Sarah and I will remove everything from the table so that the ties are accessible for you to take.
Oh,
when
terrific.
home. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna take one for sure. That's great.
Sunshine Coast special.
It's so good. Yeah.
Zip lining.
In Whistler. Wow.
That's like a paddock wine. Oh, it is, it says that.
Wow. Yeah.
Carly, are you on mute? We can't hear you.
You need to.
How about that?
Now we can hear you. That's great.
Stop share.
Just a sec.
Stop share.
We'll leave it there. Oh. Yes, ma'am.
So, at this point, this now concludes our service here at Kearney's. And
Yep.
the guests here are gonna go into the next room, if they're able, to have tea and coffee, and then grab some ties on the way out.
Okay. I'll stay on with the group that are here to
Sure.
talk to them.
Okay?
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for those of you that have joined us on live streaming and Zoom, and those that have attended in person. I should have said this earlier, but my name is Jeanette, and I'm the location manager of this particular chapel. And I was asked to MC today, and I couldn't be more proud to be here and to be a part of this service. So I thank you. It truly was an honor to be with each and every one of you today, and also with Gareth. thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say, that's my boy. Yes, that's my boy.
That's my boy.
He's all mine. He's all mine. I realize I share him with all of you, but I have this innate pastoral interest.
Absolutely.
So, what a guy. Yeah. I wouldn't have missed him for the world.
Oh, we wouldn't have either. Thank you for, because of you, we got to know you. Yeah.
But it was also such a joy to witness your joy, the joy you had together. It was very precious, very unique.
Unique for me. Unique for me. And what an unlikely series of me. What's really funny is how I got to meet him. Just a second, let me just meet these guys.
There you go.
I got